Do you live in the US? Do you file taxes? Do you make less than $75,000 annually? If the answer to all those questions is yes, then you may be the winner of a shiny new $1,400 stimulus check. Thanks to a $1.9 trillion relief package, that's trillion with a T, millions of Americans are expected to receive stimulus checks in the coming weeks. That's not all the bill does though. Businesses, state and local governments, and schools would receive billions of dollars. And the legislation would expand the child tax credit to as much as $3,600 annually per child. Democrats say the legislation would offset the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. But some Republican detractors have criticized the legislation as, well, a little porky. In a press release, Representative Scott Fitzgerald said that more than 91% of the spending in this $1.9 trillion package is not used for pandemic relief. We've heard that figure or others like it from a lot of other people too. Is it true that Democrats' COVID relief bill directs hardly any funding toward the pandemic? It's time for the Truth of Meter Minute. Hey everyone, it's Daniel Funky with PolitiFact. The $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill, also known as the American Rescue Plan, would be one of the biggest stimulus packages in American history. Whether some of its provisions are directly related to COVID, however, depends on who you ask. Fitzgerald, for example, is talking strictly about the health side of the pandemic. What exactly is in the bill? Let's break down a few of its largest components. First up, stimulus checks. This is probably the part of the bill you're most familiar with, and it also happens to be the most costly. Here's how it works. Every American taxpayer who makes less than $75,000 annually would receive a direct payment. Joint tax filers who make less than $150,000 annually would also receive checks. The COVID relief bill would also grant $1,400 per dependent. So a family of four could conceivably get $5,600 from the bill if they meet the income requirements. If your income is slightly above those thresholds, you still may see some stimulus money, just not $1,400. Payments stop for individuals that make more than $80,000 and joint filers that make more than $160,000. Next, unemployment benefits. The COVID relief bill extends additional unemployment benefits through September, including a $300 per week federal supplement. For households making less than $150,000, the first $10,200 of that relief money would be tax-free. Third, aid for governments and schools. The COVID relief bill would give billions of dollars to state and local governments, as well as schools. The goal is to help schools reopen and offset the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. But some Republicans say that that funding for schools would not be immediately spent. These three components, stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, and aid for states and schools, comprise hundreds of billions of dollars in the American Rescue Plan. In other words, that's where most of the money is going. These provisions aren't health related, but they are aimed at offsetting the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So what parts of the bill aren't COVID related? A previous version of the bill included several provisions that didn't sound like they were directly related to healthcare. Among them were a $125 million underground rail project in Silicon Valley, a $15 minimum wage, and a bridge that would have cost $1.5 million in operating money. But those provisions were later dropped. A PolitiFact analysis found that about 9% of the spending in the bill is slated for direct COVID-19 intervention. Think vaccines and other public health initiatives. But it's clear that more than 9% is directed toward pandemic relief. One nonpartisan group found that about 85% of the spending is related to the current crisis. Time for the verdict. Fitzgerald said that more than 91% of the spending in the stimulus package is not directed toward pandemic relief. We rate that claim mostly false. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more video fact checks. And for the latest, follow PolitiFact.com.